Chelsea are reportedly on the cusp of signing a new member of the Avengers team. But just who is Dave Fallows, Liverpool's ex-head of scouting and recruitment? Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sink, where we are syncing up with everything at Chelsea FC. And man, this one has sent me down a rabbit hole, man. This one has sent me down a rabbit hole. So the news broke yesterday that Chelsea are in talks with signing Dave Fallows to our management structure. Right now, obviously, you know, we've all talked about the Avengers for quite a long time, haven't we? Obviously, we've got our own set of superheroes in the board who are making all of this crazy recruitment stuff happen. You know, the process of buying the youngsters and, you know, I mean, finding the likes of Cole Palmer and Moises Caicedo can largely be attributed to a lot of these guys. But guys, before we get into it, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honor of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. So, news break yesterday that apparently this Mr. Dave Fallows is going to be joining our Avengers team, but I can find bits about what he's done and what he's known for, but you know what I can't find is a picture of the guy, right? And this is really interesting, right? This is really interesting. So a couple of content creators have broken news about this, and there is stuff on Facebook and there is stuff on, you know, like other social media platforms like Instagram and stuff. And what I've largely been seeing is pictures of these three gentlemen here, right? And I'll tell you now, none of these three guys are Dave Fallows. These three guys are Julian Ward, Michael Edwards, and Richard Hughes. And I'll tell you who else it's not as well. It's not this guy. This is Barry Hunter. So I can say, man, I've gone down a rabbit hole this morning because loads of people have been posting about this, right? And what I did notice instantly is the newspaper, like, you know, the Express and the Telegraph and the Guardian and all these guys, none of them are putting pictures of people in at all. And the content creators and the, you know, the social media guys that report on the news and stuff, they've all been putting pictures of these four guys, and none of these guys are Dave Fallows. Dave Fallows has expertly manoeuvred himself behind the scenes for 12 years at Liverpool, whilst also being credited with the signings of like Mo Salah and Andy Robertson and Sadio Mane, right? So what he's been really well known for at Liverpool, obviously before Liverpool was spending 500 million in one window, they were shrewd, man. Do you know what I mean? They would make the odd big purchase, like your Van Dijk or your Alisson, for instance. But for the most part, the majority of Liverpool's successful title-winning team was made up of reasonably low-cost players that developed into absolute superstars. Now, someone at Chelsea scouted Salah themselves, do you know what I mean? So maybe Salah was a little bit more obvious, but, you know, Sadio Mane and Andy Robertson was only like 5 mil, do you know what I mean? And he was an absolute monster for them at left-back through all of their trophy-winning seasons. And supposedly, if to be believed, Dave Fallows is the guy that is kind of credited with finding these lower-cost, high-potential signings. I find something else quite interesting about it as well is Dave Fallows hasn't really been well known for recruiting really young players, right? Because let's take a little look at our Avengers team. I'll pop a nice little picture up of them right here. So our Avengers team at the moment is comprised of Joe Shields, Lawrence Stewart, Sam Jewell, and Paul Winstanley. They've all got their own credentials coming from other clubs. Joe Shields was the head of senior recruitment at Southampton and also the head of academy recruitment and talent management at Manchester City. So he's been, you know, sort of credited with the signing of the likes of Romeo Lavia, Liam Delap, Cole Palmer, obviously, you know what I mean? Because we are building a team of Man City youngsters, apparently. Joe Shields, that was kind of his big thing. Lawrence Stewart, before Chelsea, was the technical director at Monaco and the global head of scouting at Red Bull Soccer International. So he covered Red Bull Leipzig, Salzburg, the New York Red Bulls, and Bragantino, which I didn't know was another club that they had. He was also head of performance analyst at Man City, senior recruitment coordinator at Everton, and the performance analyst for the England national team during the 2014 World Cup. And we also got the dynamic duo of Sam Jewell and Paul Winstanley, both of which came from Brighton. Sam Jewell was the head of scouting at Brighton and the youth chief at Brighton and the chief scout at Swindon Town and the opponent analyst at Newport County. Paul Winstanley was also head of scouting at Brighton and Hove Albion and also a match analyst at Derby and a performance manager at Wigan Athletic. So these are the guys that we've brought in to build the army of children that we're going to take over football with, right? And the thing I find interesting about bringing Dave Fallows in particular is youth wasn't necessarily a big part of his thing, obviously, don't get me wrong, like he wasn't buying old players by any stretch, but when Salah and Sadio Mane and Andy Robertson all joined Liverpool, they weren't like 19 years old. Do you know what I mean? They were at least approaching their mid-20s, getting more towards their prime years. And that worked really well for them because they've all largely turned into some of the best players in the world. So what I find interesting about this is this indicative of a potential change of tack going forward? So he's going to be working with the Avengers team. The youth idea isn't going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? We're not getting rid of the youth idea, but is someone like Dave Fallows going to be brought in order to start identifying players that are low cost, high potential, that can affect the team right now? And when I say right now, I don't mean like January. I imagine that any significant work he might do would probably arrive in the summer, but give him all of that time to set up his or plug into our scouting network and work his magic to try and find us some players like Sadio Mane. Like they bought Salah from Roma, I think it was. I can't remember. It was either Roma or Fiorentina. I think it was Roma, but they got him for like 20 odd mil as well. Do you know what I mean? Really, really cheap. Andy Robertson, 5 mil from a Scottish team as well. I think, I'm not sure 100% on that one. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, he was super, super, super cheap and has turned into this absolute beast of a player. And he arrived straight into the first team. All of those players went straight into Liverpool's first team, right? And elevated them, like, without a doubt. So is that part of is that like phase 3 or 4? I don't even know what phase we're in with the Avengers at the moment, but is that like the next phase of the plan? Is now we've built this cornucopia of really young talent with lots and lots and lots of potential. Are we now going to be looking at, right, okay, we want to win titles soon, so what we want to do is find some players, the likes of Salah. If we can find the next Mo Salah or Sadio Mane, mate, I will not be complaining at all. But instead of just putting all of our faith in youth and putting all this pressure on these really young guys to win titles, does the potential signing of Dave Fallows for the Avengers team mean that we're actually going to start looking at bolstering the squad with people that are ready to come in and do the job? Potentially, right? Potentially. It's very, very interesting. At the end of the day, like, we've all given the sporting directors a bit of a hard time, haven't we? And I'm sure Maresca's not very happy at the moment as well. And this might have been conversations been had with Maresca. Do you know what I mean? Because the sporting directors are making all the signings. Maresca will have some input in it, but ultimately he is coaching the team. He's not managing the club. Do you know what I mean? Like, things have obviously changed from how they used to be. Maresca is not a Fergie. He is more of a Pep Guardiola. I imagine Pep Guardiola's got a lot of sway with signings, to be honest, so maybe not an amazing example. But ultimately, Maresca not having a huge amount of input on the players that are coming in, although potentially showing his distaste for the situation that we're in. Part of me, I mean, this is probably hyperbolic, but part of me thinks that him putting Tyreek George up front for as much as he did when Mark Hugh was sat there on the bench was him kind of saying, like, I haven't got a striker, so I'm going to put Tyreek George up there. Little shots. And there were little shots fired in some press conferences and stuff, wasn't there, when the Levi Colwill situation happened? He was asked about it and he was like, yeah, definitely, I want another centre-back. And then the next press conference was like, we're looking internally for solutions. Do you know what I mean? So maybe Dave Fallows is a response to that. Maybe Dave Fallows has been the idea all along. I don't know. He left Liverpool basically after helping Arne Slot and his lot settle in, essentially. So I think that when Jurgen Klopp left, the idea was always for Dave Fallows to leave, but there's only been no talk about him until recently. Do you know what I mean? And like I say, what I do find absolutely fascinating about the guy, can't find an image of him anywhere, literally. At first I was like, oh, okay, I've got it, it's this guy. And I was like, wait, no, that's not him. And honestly, like, I've been on such a wild ride this morning, putting names to faces. Obviously, I don't even know the Chelsea structure that well. Do you know what I mean? Face-wise, like, we all know Egbali and Todd Bowley and all those guys, but I hear these names all the time, but I wasn't really familiar with everyone's faces, let alone the Liverpool structure and hierarchy. Do you know what I mean? I've done some deep diving this morning, and it was just to be like, no, okay, that's actually this guy. No, okay, that's actually this guy. And after, like, when you're making videos, you can't put too much time into this stuff. Do you know what I mean? So after about 40 minutes of looking for a picture of Dave Fallows, I just kind of gave up and was like, right, okay, this guy is just an enigma, a mystery. And I kind of like that. Do you know what I mean? I kind of like that he's not like in your face. Do you know what I mean? He's happy to work behind the scenes doing the job. That's cool, man. He's not a celebrity, not actually an Avenger type at all. In fact, he's the guy in the chair, right? He's the guy in the chair who's going to sit behind the scenes and do all the magic and make it happen. Look, this is all hyperbole, man. This is all hyperbole. At the end of the day, Maresca and the squad is what is going to win titles if it happens. But the idea of bringing in someone like Dave Fallows, who has a, compared to the other guys, huge amount of success and experience. All of the other guys we've got have definitely built their chops at lower clubs, starting from championship clubs, making their way up to the likes of Brighton. Lawrence Stewart in particular, really, lots of really big jobs with like Monaco and the Red Bull conglomeration. Do you know what I mean? Like loads of really interesting stuff there. But none of these guys have been part of building Champions League and title winning teams at the end of the day. So if Dave Fallows is really great. Now, this is the other thing about this, isn't it? Is it's difficult sometimes because we say, oh, Joe Shields is an amazing this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool. But so far, all I've seen him do, and I don't know anything about this stuff, do you know what I mean? But just from the surface level, from the face of it, all I've seen him do is bring in Man City youth players. The Brighton guys, they've brought in João Pedro and Marco Correa and Moises Caicedo, do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they've gone, oh, we had these players at our team, let's bring them over. So, I guess we're still waiting to see really some big wins outside of them just bringing players over from teams that they used to work at. I don't imagine if Dave Fallows comes that he's going to be like, oh yeah, well, I'll bring in Sadio Mane and Mo Salah and Andy Robertson. Do you know what I mean? Because they're obviously all getting towards the twilight of their careers. So it's not going to be the same thing there. So yeah, guys, just a kind of a short one today, but I just found this absolutely fascinating. There is more transfer news going on at the moment, but I'm going to save that for another video. One thing I would love to tell you all right now is I will be live streaming a watch along for tomorrow night's game in the Champions League against Ajax, but I will not be doing it here. I am doing a channel takeover of FFB. Lewis, a good friend of mine, a South American creator, and for tomorrow night I will be live streaming the match from his channel. So I will be putting a link up to it on my channel. But if you want to do a watch along, then come and hang out with me, man. I'm not going to be in South America. I'm going to be doing it here from the UK, but I'm going to be live streaming from his channel to help him out because he's not available and he wants to keep his consistency up, and I think that's really, really cool. So like I say, guys, come and hang out on the live stream on FFB with me tomorrow. Like I say, I will be putting links and descriptions and sharing whatever, on my community post, so keep an eye on anything that's coming out from my channel in the next day or so, and come and watch Chelsea batter Ajax in the Champions League over on FFB. It's going to be a lot of fun. Nice one, guys. I hope you're all having an absolutely wicked day. I'll catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.